When I woke up this morning and turned on the tap, I was horrified to see blood flowing out instead of water. Before I could scream, a hand clamped tightly over my mouth. My husband's voice whispered urgently in my ear, "Don't make a sound. There are zombies everywhere outside." The smell of blood was overwhelmingly strong. I turned around to see his white shirt completely soaked in blood, his neck a mangled mess with blood still gushing out profusely. "I've been bitten," he said. His face was deathly pale, but his low voice remained eerily calm as he spoke. "I'll go out first. Lock the door behind me and don't come out." "Darling," I grabbed his hand, feeling a wave of fear and despair wash over me. "It'll be all right. There's breakfast on the table. Have something to eat. I'll be just outside keeping watch." "I won't leave." He gently pried my fingers off, his resolve unwavering. "No, I won't let you." I refused to let go, instead throwing myself into his arms and holding on tight. I couldn't bear the thought of him leaving, even if it was just outside the door. It felt like we'd be separated by two different worlds. "I might turn into a zombie," he warned. "I don't care," I cried out. "If you really turn, then I'll turn with you." I clung to him desperately, determined never to let go, even if it meant death. He remained motionless, sighing softly after a few seconds of silence. When it came to me, he was always helpless. The breakfast on the table was still warm, all the things I said I wanted to eat last night. So early in the morning, while I was still asleep, he went out to buy them. Who knew that on his way back, a man lunged at him, biting his neck viciously. Everything happened so fast. People around screamed in terror, scattering and running in all directions. Taran's reaction was also lightning quick. He shoved the man away and sprinted off. On his way back, countless living people were pounced upon and pinned to the ground. Even just downstairs, the woman next door was being savagely bitten by her husband, who had her pinned to the ground. Her intestines were being ripped out. "I might turn into a zombie." "You'll only be safe if you leave," Taran said, sitting on the sofa. The bleeding had stopped, but his eyes were terrifyingly red. As he looked up at me, his gaze was filled with a bloodthirsty desire. "So what? If you really turn into a zombie, I won't survive on my own anyway. I'd rather be bitten by you than by someone else," I spat out through gritted teeth. Taran didn't respond. His eyes grew even redder, as if stained with blood. His body trembled, his face turned ashen, and the veins in his neck began to protrude, making him look extremely frightening. "Are you all right?" I hurriedly moved closer, but he roughly pushed me away. "Don't come out." Before I could react, he had already rushed out of the room. The door slammed shut, leaving no room for any sentimentality on my part. From outside came his muffled cries of agony. I tried to open the door, but his voice, trembling and pleading, came through. "Meredith, listen to me just this once. Please, don't come out." The door seemed to separate two worlds. I was inside, he was outside. I leaned against the door, crying and calling his name, "Taran." "It's okay, I'm fine," he responded at first, but eventually fell silent. I cried and called out, gently tapping on the door, begging for a response from him. But there was none, not for a long time. Until a low growl came from outside the door, like an agitated beast. "Taran, is that you? Taran, please answer me. Is it you?" I suddenly got up and looked through the peephole. Taran slowly turned around, and I realized his pupils had turned white, lifeless. He had become a zombie. The first day of the apocalypse. My boyfriend turned into a zombie, and I could only watch him through the peephole. Our eyes met. He glared at me, baring his teeth, then turned his back to the door. He didn't leave, still guarding outside. When other zombies passed by, he raised his fists. We were renting a private flat. A studio apartment. Outside the door was a narrow hallway, with many neighbors living on both sides. When the zombie virus broke out, many people in the building were infected. Some didn't even have time to react, their throats bitten while they were still asleep. The only way I could see Taran was through this tiny peephole. Countless times I looked out, always seeing his back, never turning around, as if he had become a tireless statue. Run! I called out carefully, staring at the back of his head when there seemed to be no zombies around. He moved! He moved! He slowly turned around, his pale eyes staring at me through the peephole. Do you still remember me? I'm your wife. You're guarding here to protect me. My voice got a bit louder, and suddenly a zombie rushed over. Turan grabbed it by the hair and smashed its head against the wall. The head exploded instantly. I could only exclaim bloody hell. The zombie world was so violent and brutal. Turan used to be such a nice lad, gentle and kind, well-mannered. Now he's just smashing heads without a second thought. Darling, you're so strong. Those zombies are no match for you. You're brilliant. He released his grip, and the zombie slid to the ground. He stared intently at the peephole. Even though there was a door between us, I could still feel his hunger for me, teeth bared and all. We're out of water, I muttered. At this rate, even if I don't turn into a zombie, I'll end up as dry as a bone. It's only been 2 days, and we've already run out of supplies. God knows who died in the water tank, turning everything into blood. Turan stood there, ramrod straight, and I wasn't sure if he understood what I said. It was already night. I was exhausted. When he turned his back again, I retreated to my room to sleep. The next morning, I found 3 large bottles of mineral water and a pile of snacks outside my door. Crisps and biscuits, all my favorite flavors. Darling, you still remember me, I whispered. I rushed to the door, pressing my face against the peephole to look outside. Turan stood there with his back to me. Compared to before, he now held a sharp axe in his hand. I suppose my voice had attracted zombies. The old man from next door lunged at him, teeth bared. Turan swung his axe. The old man's head flew off, his body twitching as it fell, convulsing for a long while before finally going still. Darling, I said softly. Turan slowly turned around, his pale eyes devoid of any humanity, coldly staring at the peephole. If you still remember me, just nod. Even a small gesture will do. I was practically glued to the door, but he slowly turned his back to me again, as if to say he didn't remember me. Turan, don't think you can fool me like this. If you don't cooperate, I swear I'll open this door and rush out right now. I was furious. He clearly remembered, he could even understand what I was saying. So what if he's a zombie? I'm not one to discriminate against the undead. I'll count to 3. If you don't turn around, I'm opening the door. My hand was already on the doorknob, but his back remained stubbornly turned to me. I twisted the lock, and he suddenly spun around, baring 8 large, surprisingly white teeth. What are you snarling at? Don't think I'm afraid of you just because you've turned into a zombie, I said. His teeth-baring gesture froze. Put those teeth away, or I'll stick my arm in your mouth and let you bite me. Being a zombie with you doesn't sound so bad. As soon as I said this, his mouth snapped shut, and he silently turned his back to me again. Turn back around. Did I tell you to turn away? He was helpless against me, as always. I wanted to laugh, but tears slid down my cheeks, beyond my control. 3 years ago, he had knelt on one knee, looking up at me and promising to protect me for life. Who would have thought that 3 years later, this would be how he kept that promise? That morning, I was sleeping fitfully when I vaguely heard the sound of the door opening. In that instant, I leapt up and rushed out. The front door was slightly ajar, and Turan stood outside, stuffing large and small bags through the gap. Darling! I cried out excitedly. He froze, slowly raising his head, his eyes glowing red. It was the hunger for food. I was the most delicious prey, and he was the terrifying predator. I flinched, pulling my neck in. His face darkened as he tossed the things aside, closing the door gently. Darling, I called out. I rushed to the door, but it was already locked. I could only see through the peephole that he was standing with his back to the door. 2 zombies charged towards him. He picked up the axe, violently and brutally taking them down one by one. Turan, I miss you, I whimpered, my nose stinging as tears streamed down my face. His back stiffened. He didn't turn around for a long time, just gripping the axe tightly. He still didn't want to see me. I felt he was probably afraid of losing control and hurting me. Outside was a world of cannibalism. In the first few days, you could still faintly hear human screams. Now you can hardly hear any human voices. Only the low growls of zombies and the faint sound of teeth gnawing on bones. The electricity had long since gone out. By the 8th day, not even bloody water flowed from the taps anymore. Tarun kept bringing things into the flat. All sorts of food and supplies. The living room was already packed full. He still stood guard at the door. He had cleared the zombies in the corridor. Even when I spoke, no zombies came rushing out. The silence was unnerving. Darling, there's no electricity. All that meat you brought back has gone off, I chatted to him, leaning against the door. Tarun didn't turn around or respond. Since becoming a zombie, he hadn't spoken a word. He must have lost the ability to speak, but I knew he could still understand what I was saying. Day 15 of the apocalypse. Tarun had dealt with all the zombies in this block of flats. Even the bodies on the ground and the splattered heads were gone. He still refused to see me, just sneaking things into the flat every day, never coming further than the doorway. The zombies were all gone. Why couldn't we just live together normally? In the early hours of that morning, I hid behind the door, watching as the lock finally turned gently. His pale hand reached inside. I grabbed it at once. Caught you this time. His hand froze instantly. I looked up, meeting his blood-red eyes staring directly at me, filled with a predatory desire. Tarun! I exclaimed. Despite being mentally prepared, I still shrank back in fear. He stared at me fixedly, as if an entire century had passed. Suddenly, he pushed me away and slammed the door shut. The sound echoed loudly in the night, like thunder reverberating in my ears. Tarun, please open the door, I pleaded, peering through the peephole to see only his back. There was no response. He stood rigid like a statue, guarding our home. I clutched my stomach and let out a pained groan. Oh, my stomach hurts so much. Tarun, my stomach. He finally turned around. Through the peephole, I could see him staring intently at the door. I slowly slid down to the floor, my voice growing weaker. Really? I was going to die. If he didn't come in to save me, I'd be gone for good. A second after I fell silent, the lock turned. I quickly closed my eyes and lay motionless. He walked in. As he came closer, I could smell a faint mint scent on him. Had he showered somewhere else? That definitely wasn't our shower gel's scent. Did you shower outside? Are you cheating on me? I suddenly opened my eyes and pounced on him, one hand grabbing his collar while the other roamed up and down, feeling and pinching. His flesh was stiff and cold, but not that bone-chilling cold. Why are you glaring at me? Tell me, do you have someone else? You sneaked out to shower somewhere? You didn't come home and didn't care about me. Do you not love me anymore? I wrapped my legs around his waist, clinging to him like a koala, afraid he might push me away and rush out the door again. He stood motionless like a statue, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me. What's the matter? Don't think I'm scared of you just because you're glaring at me. I raised my arm and thrust it near his mouth. Go on, bite me if you dare. If you do, I'll turn into a zombie and bite you back. He turned his head away, refusing to look at me or make a sound. His body remained rigid like a wooden post, as if silently protesting. The hunger in his eyes was palpable, even as he averted his gaze. Why are you ignoring me? Have you fallen in love with me? Oh, I see. You've been flirting with a female zombie of your own kind out there, haven't you? My voice grew louder with each accusation. He slowly turned his head back, his bloodshot eyes filled with resignation as he stiffly shook his head. Still trying to deny it? I leaned in close, sniffing his collar and neck before moving up to kiss his cheek. Your scent is off. It's like someone else's perfume. He just stared at me, the red in his eyes gradually fading. It seemed my nagging had dampened his appetite, and a hint of nervousness crept into his expression. I glared at him. If you don't come clean, this isn't over. He opened his mouth but no sound came out, revealing his stark white teeth. I leaned in closer, and he instinctively leaned back, avoiding my approaching lips. You really don't love me anymore. You used to kiss me first, but now you're avoiding it. You've had a change of heart. I covered my face, peeking at his expression through my fingers. He continued to stare at me without blinking, remaining silent and standing still like a wooden post. After what felt like ages. Just as I was about to give up the act, he suddenly lowered his head and gently brushed his lips against my forehead, then quickly pulled away. I stole a glance at him. His eyes were bloodshot, filled with an intense hunger. I knew he wanted to devour me, like a starving man facing a sizzling roast. Who could resist that? If it were me, I'd definitely pounce and take a big bite. Darling, I wrapped my arms around his neck. I know I'm irresistible, but we need to figure out how to deal with this craving. Otherwise, how can we live together? You can't stand guard at the door all day, can you? Even if he was willing, I wouldn't be. I'm used to sleeping in his arms. Especially in this post-apocalyptic world. These past few days, I've been tossing and turning alone, feeling like I've aged years. I pulled him down to sit on the sofa, pouting as I told him how I'd been peering through the peephole these past days, only to see his back. It was heartbreaking. Tarun was quiet. He'd always been a man of few words, even before turning into a zombie. Now he was even more silent, turning his head away from me. I couldn't stand it. I cupped his face with both hands, forcing him to look at me. Our eyes met. His eyes grew redder, as if blood was seeping into them. Suddenly, he pushed me away, bolted out the door, and slammed it shut once more. Darling, I called, pressing against the door and peeking through the peephole. He stood with his back to the door, his body trembling, hands clenched into fists. He was restraining himself, desperately suppressing the urge to harm me. I tapped on the door. Love, if you want to bite me, just do it. It'll only hurt a bit, I promise I won't scream. Then I can become a zombie too, and we can wander together, even shower together. He stiffened, then whirled around, his blood-red eyes fixed on me through the peephole. Even through that tiny lens, I could feel his anger. He was furious. Suddenly, he let out a beastly roar and bolted out of the room. Tarun! I called after him, but he didn't even look back as he disappeared from my sight. He was gone. Tarun Grafton had fled in panic. I stayed by the door, waiting for hours, but he didn't return. My legs had gone numb, and though I wanted to go look for him, I didn't dare. I slowly slid down against the door, tears falling uncontrollably. What if Tarun had really run away, never to return? I wish I hadn't teased him. If I were in his shoes, starving like that, and he had waved fish and chips in front of me, I'd probably want to kill him too. Dawn had broken. I peeked out the window furtively, spotting a few zombies shuffling about. In the past fortnight, I hadn't seen a single living soul. I didn't know if there was anyone left here. Without Tarun, I'd either be zombie food by now or starve to death. I waited at home, counting the minutes until sunset. Finally, there was a sound outside the door. The lock turned. The door opened. He walked in, standing before me of his own accord for the first time. He had showered again, changed into a clean white shirt. That's not fair, you know. Finding a place to shower without me. I was genuinely hurt. We used to always shower together, even said we'd do so for life. But since the apocalypse came and he turned, he's been species discriminating and leaving me out. I couldn't help but worry he might find female zombies more relatable, grow tired of me, hate me, abandon me. He just stared at me silently, his eyes gleaming with a faint crimson, though not as fierce as before when he wanted to bite me. I glanced up at him between whimpers. Suddenly, he turned and walked towards the door. Tarun! At my call, he paused, looked back at me, then continued out. Just at the doorway. The door still open, he faced me and slowly raised his hand, waving it back and forth. Like a ghost beckoning souls. At that moment, he just needed to say, I died such a horrible death. If it were anyone else, I'd be scared witless, running to my room, slamming the door, and trembling under the covers. But it was Tarun waving, and far from being scared, I felt a bit excited, trotting after him. Since the apocalypse began, it was my first time stepping out of the room. The moment I walked out that ground floor door, the stench of rotting corpses was overwhelming. I nearly suffocated. Right there on the ground, as far as I could see, no less than 10 dismembered zombies. All slain by Taran. Even I could understand that he'd been busy all day clearing a path for me. Probably because I'd said I wanted to turn into a zombie so we could wander and shower together. Now he wanted to prove that even without becoming a zombie, I could still join him in his wanderings and showers. It was just like before. I'd said I envied other girls having such perfect proposal ceremonies. So he stood in front of the dorm building holding flowers, surrounded by candles arranged in a heart shape. Called my name in public, then got down on one knee before me to ask me to be his girlfriend. Now he stopped by a car door. He paused, gesturing for me to get in. Thankfully, I'd gotten my driver's license in university. Though my skills were rudimentary, they'd prove quite useful in this post-apocalyptic world. Taran directed from the passenger seat. I drove, following his directions, finally stopping in front of a villa. The gates were wide open. The interior was extremely luxurious. The key thing was that the water here was still running and hadn't been contaminated by infected blood. When I turned on the tap and saw clear water flowing out, my nose stung and I nearly burst into tears. Taran watched me, pointing towards the bathroom. I understood, that's where he'd showered. The scent of shower gel was the same as on him. I stomped my foot and pointed at Taran. You've been sneaking off to enjoy this luxurious villa without me. If I hadn't suspected you of cheating, were you ever planning to bring me here? I knew I was being unreasonable, but if I didn't act this way, Taran would simply ignore me and keep his distance. Our relationship always felt like there was an insurmountable chasm between us. Now, I glared at him with puffed-up cheeks. With nowhere to escape, he could only lift his head and shake it slightly, denying my accusation. Then why didn't you bring me here earlier? Did you have to wait until I got suspicious? I persisted, and he looked at me, then outside, opening his mouth to make woo-woo sounds as he tried to explain. I lifted my chin, struggling to suppress the pride swelling within me. Look how powerful I am. I've even managed to make a zombie try to speak. I don't care. From now on, you're not allowed to stay far from me. We'll shower together, sleep together, and eat together. Taran silently followed me. It had been so long since I'd had a proper shower. And now I had my dream man to scrub my back. It felt absolutely blissful. Still, I washed quickly, worried the water might run out. Then I explored every inch of the villa. It had 2 floors, luxurious decor, a large garden with high walls, and even a cellar full of wine. Darling, we finally get to live in a mansion. I love you so much. At times like these, of course I had to throw myself into his arms, clinging to him like a koala and peppering his face with kisses. His eyes grew redder. While I was kissing him, he looked like he wanted to devour me. I didn't mind, grinning at him foolishly. If I wasn't afraid of angering him, I'd offer my pale arm for him to bite. Then I could become a zombie too, and we could each grab an axe and go out chopping up zombies for fun. After all, it's the end of the world. If we die, we die. No big deal. The zombies around the mansion had all been slain by Taran, and their bodies dragged away. I was now able to go for a stroll, with Taran following close by, an axe still in his hand. Darling, I said, reaching out to take Taran's hand. You're so amazing. Those zombies were no match for you. You're like the king of zombies. He glanced at me. I beamed at him, clinging to his arm. As a weak and helpless human, I must hold on to you tightly. His expression remained impassive as he allowed me to hang on to him like a koala. Since becoming a zombie, Taran had become even more aloof and cold, barely uttering a word for ages, often extremely detached or actively distant. I refused to let him be that way. If he moved 1 step away, I'd move 2 steps closer until I was hanging on to him. At times like these, he'd always give me a look of resigned helplessness. Darling, this life of ours is quite nice, isn't it? I said as I followed Taran through a supermarket, helping ourselves to whatever we wanted and pushing a fully loaded trolley towards the exit. Is that a living person? There are still living people. As soon as we stepped out, we heard those long-forgotten cries. It was a girl's voice, shouting loudly and joyfully, seemingly unafraid of attracting zombies. I turned to look and immediately understood why she wasn't afraid. She was surrounded by soldiers with guns, and she herself was in military uniform, looking brave and confident, giving off a sense of security. But in the next moment, all those dark gun barrels were aimed at Tarun. "What do you think you're doing?" I instinctively stepped in front of Tarun, arms spread wide like an angry cat, glaring at them. "Young lady, there seems to be a zombie behind you." "Quick, move aside," an older man called out to me. The girl from earlier also shouted, "Get out of the way." "I won't." What's wrong with being a zombie? Does that mean he deserves to have guns pointed at him? This is species discrimination, and it's wrong. I shouted back, my voice full of righteous indignation, even as my eyes began to well up. The truth was, I was terrified. I couldn't fight off so many people. What if they tried to take Turan away, or worse, decided to kill him without a second thought? "Young lady, if you don't move away, that zombie will eat you." "He won't eat me. He's not a zombie, he's my husband. He's been protecting me all along." I glared at those people, my voice already trembling. "Please, I'm begging you, don't hurt my husband. He's never bitten or eaten anyone." The group exchanged glances, clearly skeptical. How could a zombie not bite people? But Tarun stood behind me, making no move to attack me. So they were confused and didn't immediately open fire. After a few seconds of silence, the girl suddenly walked towards me. "Don't come any closer." I shouted at her immediately. I couldn't let her approach, couldn't let her confirm that Tarun was a zombie. That would put him in danger. "Don't be afraid, we mean no harm. We won't hurt you." The girl paused in her steps. Of course, I knew they had no ill intentions towards me, but what about Tarun? "Run!" I gripped Tarun's hand tightly and sprinted towards the nearby car park. "Hey, young lady!" They called after me, but I didn't dare look back as I dragged Tarun along. Those people were my kind, but I chose Tarun. But we hadn't run far when Tarun suddenly stopped, yanking my hand painfully. "Why aren't you running?" I turned back to call him, only to meet his eyes, now glowing crimson. In that instant, fear and despair surged through me, tears immediately flooding out. "What are you doing?" I knew what he was trying to do, I just couldn't believe it. So at this moment, he wanted to abandon me, to push me towards those people. As I questioned him, Tarun firmly tried to push my hand away. I cried out to him, but his face remained expressionless as he forcefully tried to pry my hand off. "No, I won't let you push me away." The moment he managed to push my hand off, I threw myself at him. Clinging to him like this? I was far too practiced at it. I doubt even a sloth could cling as well as I could. "What are you two doing?" The young girl watched in confusion, while the older man said, "We're not bad people, you know. We're not the kind of heartless bandits who only take women and leave the men behind." They hadn't realized Tarun was a zombie. I froze, looking at Tarun. The crimson in his eyes masked the telltale dead fish white of zombies, so they hadn't recognized him. "What can we do?" "We just wanted to show a bit of affection, after all, we haven't seen people in ages." "We're a bit excited," I said, forcing a smile while explaining and clinging tightly to Tarun. There was no way I was letting go of him. They looked exasperated, especially the girl, whose lip twitched as she spoke. "Well, do you want to come with us? We've set up a safe zone, there are no zombies there." "No need. We're quite safe, so we won't trouble you," I said, waving my hands repeatedly before pulling Tarun close and whispering, "Let's go. If we don't, they'll kill you, and I'll die with you." He stared at me intently. Finally, he picked me up and walked away. Those people didn't follow us. I only breathed a sigh of relief when we got in the car. We returned to the villa. I closed the door, drew the curtains, and turned to Tarun, gritting my teeth. "You wanted to get rid of me, didn't you? You couldn't wait to hand me over to others, could you?" I approached step by step, while Tarun retreated until his back was against the wall, his hands helplessly raised to his chest to prevent me from getting closer. "I've seen through it all along. You've been deliberately keeping your distance from me, all for today, right? To send me away today. I spat out the last words through clenched teeth, raising my hand to push against his chest. How dare he? He dared to make decisions on his own without asking me. Taran shook his head, trying hard to explain. Would I listen to him? I stood on my tiptoes and pressed my lips against his. It was cold. A coldness without warmth. Our eyes met, and his quickly turned a terrifying crimson. I don't care about anything else, I'm going to bite him. Who says only zombies can bite? I can too, and I'll bite his lip until it bleeds. That faint taste of blood spreads between our lips. I'm truly mad. In this moment, I want to become a zombie too. He suddenly pushes me away. Caught off guard, I fall to the ground, while his eyes are already bloodshot. He turns to leave. I rush over and grab his leg. You can't go. I won't let you leave. I'm just stubborn like that, set in my ways. Even if the person I love turns into a zombie, I don't think it's a big deal. So what if he becomes a zombie? Even if we end up getting our heads blown off, we'll face it together. Taran stands rigid, not moving an inch. I look up at him, my vision blurred by tears. Please, I'm begging you, don't go. I don't want you to leave. He shakes his head. He's actually shaking his head. We promised to be together forever, a lifetime together, but it's only been a few years and he's trying to leave me. Fine, go then. If you step out that door, I'll go find another zombie to bite me. I let go of him and stand up, hands on my hips, looking fierce. He doesn't move. Seeing him still standing there, I yank the door open. Once you're gone, we're done. Even if I turn into a zombie, I won't spare you another glance. He doesn't leave. His bloodshot eyes glare at me, stubbornly refusing to go. I'm even more stubborn, baring my teeth. Go on then, don't waste time here. He slams the door shut violently. This fool isn't leaving. Instead, he's awkwardly blocking the door, not letting me out. I clutch my stomach and slump to the floor. I tasted your blood earlier. I think I might be turning into a zombie too. Taran looked utterly bewildered, hastily crouching down to gaze at me. In that instant, I hooked my arms around his neck and kissed him. There was no way to shake me off. Even if he were a zombie, I'd still have him. I discovered we could kiss, and I hadn't mutated. Perhaps one needs to be bitten by a zombie. Taran hadn't bitten me, so I wasn't infected with the zombie virus. This was quite something. I made it my daily routine to snob Taran, sneaking in kisses whenever he wasn't paying attention. At first, this bloke tried to dodge me. Later, he became numb to it, allowing me to have my way with him, hands roaming freely. The human counterattack was incredibly swift. Early one morning, as I was sleeping soundly, I was suddenly awakened by the sound of a megaphone outside. They announced that the zombies in this area had been cleared out, and we survivors should go to the community center to register and receive free essential supplies. When I arrived, the queue was already quite long. Everyone's eyes were filled with excitement, their faces unable to hide their joy. However, there were also many who couldn't smile, the light gone from their eyes. Young lady, I've seen you before. Why are you alone? As we were queuing, an older woman in front of me turned around, her face beaming with a smile. I was taken aback. I must thank your husband. He saved me, and he cleared out all the zombies in our area. He's such a good man, the woman said, grasping my hand, her voice quite loud. Everyone began to look at me and whisper among themselves. The one with the axe who chopped zombies. Always in a clean white shirt whenever he appeared. When he left, he was covered in blood. But when he reappeared, he was clean and tidy again, looking like a handsome young lad. Yes, he's my husband, I said with a beaming smile, unable to hide my pride. He's not fond of crowds, so I've come to register on his behalf. My man was a beast when it came to slaying zombies, one axe swing and they were done for, an absolute legend. Oh, it's you. I'm Bronte, we've met before, said the girl from last time. She was one of the staff members maintaining order, and her eyes lit up with delight upon seeing me. Hello, I'm Meredith, I replied, feeling a bit nervous about them discovering Turan's condition. But she showed no signs of suspicion. Her smile remained bright as she shook my hand. The elderly lady next to us was particularly enthusiastic, raising her voice to tell Bronte, her husband is incredible. The reason we have so few zombies in this area is all thanks to him slaying them. He even saved my life. Bronte turned to me with a smile. At that moment, I blushed, feeling even more uneasy. I wasn't there, but I'm sure saving people was just a coincidence. Truly, I couldn't boast now. What if they wanted to meet Turan? Or worse, what if they needed him to slay zombies? Turan simply couldn't be seen. It's no coincidence, love. You're just being modest, the elderly lady continued. Her husband was out there every day slashing zombies, especially at night. He'd even go door to door bringing us water and food. That's a real hero. Same for us, another chimed in. If it weren't for him, we'd have starved to death before the zombies could get us. That's right. If her husband hadn't brought us food, we'd be nothing but skin and bones by now. And then he went and cleared out all the zombies too. Everyone was chiming in, their excitement palpable. I had no idea Turan had done so much. Bronte asked me with a warm smile, perhaps we could have dinner together sometime, you and your husband? I waved my hands frantically, my husband doesn't like socializing. He'd want to take a bite out of me, let alone all these people who'd look like a feast to him. All right then, Bronte replied. Just fill out this form and leave your mobile number. We've contacted the authorities about restoring power and communications. Things should be back to normal soon. Bronte's words excited everyone. The human counterattack was definitely gaining momentum. I returned home and locked the door behind me. Our curtains had remained closed all this time. Thankfully, we lived in a detached house. I was considering whether we should leave. Darling, why don't we leave and find a place where we can be alone? I said. When we left, I had told him to wait for me here. But as I pushed the door open, the bedroom was empty. My first thought was that Turan had run away. Meredith. The familiar voice made me freeze. I almost didn't dare to turn around. Was Turan calling me? How could that be possible? He hadn't been able to speak since he turned into a zombie. Meredith? Another call. Before I could react, I had already turned to look. Turan was standing right behind me. He was wearing trousers and a white shirt, looking clean and sharp. Most importantly, his eyes, which had been as lifeless as a dead fish, now held a faint glimmer of awareness. You can speak? I suspected I was dreaming and couldn't help but pinch my cheek hard. It hurt, making me wince. A little, he said. His words were short and a bit stiff, but so much better than before. Wait, can zombies turn back into humans? My entire worldview was crumbling. I stared at Turan, still unable to believe it. Not sure, Turan shook his head. I rushed over and pressed my ear against his chest. Before, there had been no heartbeat, no body heat. But now I could hear a faint heartbeat. When I touched his chest, I could feel warmth, not the cold of a corpse like before. My God, you really seem to have come back to life and turned human, I said, so excited I almost cried. I pulled him into the room and started unbuttoning his shirt. I had to do a full body check. The wound on his neck had long since healed. His body was pale and smooth, with a bit of elasticity when I pinched it, not stiff like before. I leaned against his chest again. Without the barrier of clothes, I could hear his heartbeat even more clearly. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. How is this possible? I couldn't understand it. Turan looked at me with adoration, the corners of his lips turning up slightly. He didn't know either. In any case, Turan turning back into a human was undoubtedly the greatest miracle in this world. A fortnight later, Turan's pupils had fully returned to their natural black color, indistinguishable from those of an ordinary person. Though he still spoke sparingly, he could now form complete sentences and communicate with me without much difficulty. After much deliberation, we concluded that Turan's transformation into a human was likely due to my constant nibbling on him. Especially that one time when I bit him hard enough to draw blood. Fighting fire with fire, we reasoned if a zombie bite could turn a human, why couldn't a human bite turn a zombie back? The second population census arrived. With communications and electricity fully restored, humanity began to rebuild. Turan and I went hand in hand to register. The moment we stepped into the town square, all eyes turned to us, accompanied by hushed whispers. "Is that him?" Yes, I recognized him instantly. "He's so handsome." The last comment came from a young girl. I glanced at Turan, my eyes brimming with pride. My man wasn't just handsome, he was straight out of a romance novel. Meredith, Bronte approached us again, waving in greeting before turning to Turan. "Hello, we've met before." "Yes, I remember," Turan replied, his deep voice tinged with a hint of coolness. Bronte handed us several forms. In addition to registering our basic information, there were 2 medical examination forms. Initially, I was reluctant, but Turan persuaded me, and we ended up going for a full-body checkup. On the day the results came back, I was too nervous to look. I kept sneaking glances at Turan's expression until I saw a smile tugging at his lips. Only then did I snatch the report and read it thoroughly. Everything was normal. Turan's body had fully recovered to human status, with no trace of the zombie virus. Indeed, the medical reports now included a new section for zombie virus detection. Some humans, despite not having mutated, were found to be carrying the virus and were consequently quarantined. A new drug had been developed, and after systematic treatment to completely eradicate the zombie virus, they could be released from isolation and resume normal life. That night, as darkness fell and the wind howled outside, "Darling." Turan stood by the bed, slowly unbuttoning his shirt. I protested weakly, "Don't come any closer. I can't handle it." 10 years later, the human world had returned to normal. The zombie virus had become something of a legend, and I had given birth to twins. "Mummy, who do you love more, my brother or me?" my little girl asked, hugging my leg and looking up with a sweet smile. "Of course, I love your daddy the most," I blurted out. At his desk, Turan's lips curved into an uncontrollable smile as he worked overtime. I looked over at him, and he met my gaze. Our eyes locked, and I saw myself reflected in the depths of his dark eyes, filling them completely.